my friends, welcome back to my channel. I thought today I would do a little drawing demonstration, I guess. I have been really enjoying doing the pen and ink sketching, drawing, and sometimes I love to put washes of watercolor on it, and sometimes I just love the look of the black and white. So I'm not sure which way we're going to go with that, but I did decide to pull out a piece of hot pressed watercolor paper so that just in case I do decide to put watercolor wash on it, that the paper can handle it. I was really surprised. I'm a huge fan of the New York Central watercolor paper from Jerry's Artorama. I usually get the cold press. This is the hot press, and it is 100% cotton, which I personally discovered for myself that once I switched to 100% cotton watercolor paper, it made a world of difference for me in my watercolors. But the problem with cold press paper is that it tends to be quite bumpy. So I thought I would use some hot press. This is Fabriano hot pressed, and it's 25% cotton, which doesn't really bother me because we're doing washes of watercolor. If we're not doing detailed paintings. But I was really surprised at the difference in the feel of the two papers. This is what I was expecting to get with the New York Central hot pressed, because I always thought that hot pressed was super smooth, that you could do pen and ink and things like that on it very easily because it was really smooth. This is, I suppose it's smoother than the cold press, but it still has a bit of a texture on it. So that's okay. I've done pen and ink on my cold pressed watercolor paper. So we're going to give it a go and see what happens. I've never put water to this paper. I have no idea if I'm going to like it or not, but we're going to find out together. So I have the tools that I use when I draw. I have just a regular old, what is this? I don't even know what number this is, but you know, a regular old mechanical pencil. I like them. I use them. It's nice to not have to sharpen. Other erasers, I have a kneaded eraser, which I love to use for larger areas. I'll use one of these kind of erasers for small areas. My pens. So my pens, I am currently using Micron pens, and I tend to like the finest of the fine tips. So you can get a pack of Micron pens in a variety of sizes, ranging from like an 8, a 5. They work their way down to 01. Sorry, I think there's a 1 too. Then there's 01, 005, and 003. Those are the smallest. Those are the 3 smallest sizes of the pin, and I don't know if you can see. And I think if I pull it up to the camera, it'll just go blurry. So I'm not going to do that. But I feel like the thinner the line I'm using, the more realistic I get in my pictures, and the less it looks like I don't know. I don't want to, it's not a criticism. It's just, I don't like the really thick outlines because I feel like it looks less real. So we'll just leave it at that. So those are the pens that I use. And then this puppy, I've talked about it before. This is an invaluable tool. This is called a proportional divider. You can get them on Amazon. You can get plastic ones on Amazon. This one came from my husband's stash of drawing tools and can't think of the word, drafting tools and stuff like that. So basically you use this to check your proportions from your reference photo to your drawing. And you just, you know, I'm sure I've showed you guys how to do this before, and I will be using this to help me make sure that I kind of get everything where I want it. I do take some creative license when I'm drawing these. God, I'm babbling on and on. So I will link the two reference photos. One's from Pixabay and one's from Unsplash. One I got for the flower, and one I got so that I could kind of get a good look at what the peony leaves look like. That's what we're going to work on today, is a peony. And I picked a variety that was not as, some peonies are really, they have like 1,000 petals. These are either Chinese peonies or Japanese peonies, and they're a little bit of a looser style of a flower. So I think it'll be a little bit easier to do and to do for the channel and all of that good stuff. So, all right, anything else? I will put a photo in the video up in the corner of the section that I'm working on, just so that it will help you to see kind of what I'm doing. And my thought is I'm going to double speed through the sketching part, because otherwise this, you know, this video will be like a 2-hour video, and nobody needs that. So I will draw double time, or I don't know, maybe I'll even speed it up faster than that. I'm not sure. With no voiceover, I'm just going to draw it out, and so you can watch me do it. If you want to draw along with me, just slow that video down. You know, you can click on those 3 little dots at the top, and slow it down to whatever speed you want. And I think that's it. So I will commence to drawing, and when I get the sketch down on the paper, I will be back, and I'll show you the next step, which is adding the Micron pins. So the next thing I'm going to do is start adding the pen. And I'm really curious to see how the pen feels on this paper. And I think I will start, I'm just going to start with a petal. Usually I just pick a spot and go with it. So these two that I have here that have the tape on them, those are pens that I've used for a while now, and they're starting to, the tips are starting to wear down. That's one of the downfalls of working with, oh, that one's really down, of working with, you know, those super fine liners, is that they're really, really, really delicate. So, but they come in really handy for when I want just the barest, lightest marks. I don't want anything, you know, strong yet. And they're really good for that. So I'm just gonna start and we'll see what happens. Sometimes it's almost too bare of one because it just doesn't make enough of a mark. So let's see, I'm gonna go for my new 003. And even though these are really, really fine, you still have to be really careful about not applying too much pressure, or else you will get a thicker line than you probably want. So for me, I tend to do a lot of my cleanup work when I'm actually using the pen. The pencil is kind of just there for me to have a good idea of where things go. But a lot of the times I'll really start adding in a little bit more of the squiggly stuff that I want on here when I'm actually using the pen. You know, I think I'm going to do some outlining first. So I'm just going to get all of this outlined, and then we'll do some erasing of the pencil. I'm almost wondering if I should just kind of speed through this part too, because there's really nothing that I can share with you. There's no words of wisdom. All right, so now the question is, do I go ahead and go crazy in there? Or do I do that at the end? I don't know. Let's do that at the end. So I think I'll start with a finer. I think always start finer than you think you're going to need. You can always increase the size of your marks, but you can't decrease the size of your marks. So if you start as fine and thin as you think you're going to need, you're better off doing that. Now, this right here is this petal kind of showing through. So that one goes a little bit heavier in color. But I think you can see how super light and thin that is. That's because this pen has really gone, it's really been used a lot. So save those pens as they start to get not as strong and thick, because they're great for when you really just want the thinnest of marks. So with pen and ink, you're going to use a couple of different marks. I can't think of a better word for that. There's stippling, which you can use to add darkness to your flower, or to your whatever you're working on, where you're trying to get shadow, you're trying to get darkness, whether it's shadow or darkness of color. There's hatching, which is just the straight lines, and there's cross hatching, which a lot of people use as well. I find I tend to use that one the least in mine. I tend to like to do hatching and stippling the most. I don't know about this paper. I'm afraid it's just gonna really work my pen, put my pen through hell, I think. I don't know. The jury's still out on this paper. We'll see. All right, I'm just gonna move around, make some marks. This is the 003. This is a brand new one. This is the thinnest that they come. And I find that if I use it on its side, more than kind of straight up and down, I get a thinner, lighter line as well. I probably should have done some erasing. I think I'm going to do some erasing here. Yeah, let's just do a little bit of erasing. Make sure that if you're going to erase, you wait until your pen is dry. It generally does not take very long, although I might leave those. Although I suppose it depends on your climate. All right, so this is supposed to be going over and catching more light. So we're going to put our shading in here. And I'm looking at this and I'm going, where's your loop? You forgot your loop. I don't know. But again, that's one of the nice things about working on flowers and things like that, is that it doesn't have to be exact unless you want it to be. And I'm not gonna lie, it's a little more nerve-wracking to do this while I'm filming myself. I feel like when I'm doing something that I'm not really super confident and comfortable with, filming just makes it even worse. So I never feel like I do as good of a job when I'm filming as I do when I'm just working at home, you know, by myself without the camera going. All right, I think I'm going to work my way around a little bit and just kind of get almost the first layers in, and then I can come back in and start to refine and add more detail. Kind of with anything else, you have to try and make your lines and your marks and everything kind of go in the shape and direction that the petal is going. Could be wrong, but gosh, I almost feel like this paper is rougher than the cold press that I've been using. I'm not sure I'm gonna like this. And I've never used hot press to do actual watercolors on, so I'm not even sure how it's going to behave with watercolor. I know so many people, you know, recommend hot press paper for when you're going to do pen and line and wash, or, you know, pen work before your watercolor. This paper is pretty rough. All right, so I'm going to do some, I think I'm going to switch to one of my old pens. We're going to do some lines. Right there. And this one I'm going to do a few. That's better. It's actually not on the reference photo, these lines, at least not that I can see. But I much prefer it now. Now that I'm looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, that's what it was missing. Is some of these rough? They're like I call them ruffle lines. So it's to kind of help define how the petal is moving, is you know, ruffly, because petals are ruffly. They're not super straight usually. Now, I think I got a little bit too much color on this little section, a little much too much pen, too much black right there. There's nothing I can really do about it right now. If it really drives me crazy, I might come in with some white ink. We'll see. All right, I can come back to what is this? No, I want to go back to my regular number 3. 003. Oh, what did I do? I wanted that to be straighter in. Let's see. There's not a lot I can do about that now, really. Guess it's not terrible. All right, so I'm going to come off of the bottom of this part that's curving up. With just these little slightly curved lines. Try and leave the top of it as light as possible. And then these are going to come over this way. See how when I put these lines coming up in these kind of ruffles, all of a sudden now that petal gets a shape. It's more than just a flat petal. One thing that does often help me is if I take whatever reference photo I'm going to be using and I turn it black and white, because that way you're not distracted by the colors. Since when you're drawing like this, you're drawing in black and white. If you convert that picture to black and white, then you're only kind of concentrating on the values, because in a black and white sketch, you're not relying on color, so you have to rely on value to define the shape, the form, and the colors of the piece. So black and white helps me a lot. I know a lot of people use cross hatching, and every time I try it, it looks terrible to me. So I tend to stay away from it, but I think I need to, keep practicing and keep trying different things. Scribbling, that's another one. I've used scribbling before. to get some texture. And see, this is where I want to make sure that I don't cover up, which I did. I covered up too much of where those little yellow things, whatever those are, stamens, is that? So even in here, I want to make sure that otherwise they're not going to stick out from. I should probably define those some more. I pulled out my pencils, my graphite pencils, saying to myself, why don't you just play with graphite? You know, you can get so many more values easier. And I will definitely do that. But again, I pulled them out and I started playing with them, and I was like, oh man, I just really like the pen and ink better. But I don't know why. I don't know why it is. It's crazy because you know, for me, doing something that I can't erase seems kind of crazy. But I'm having the need to come back in here now and add some more. But you can see that as you come back in and add more and more dark, more and more depth, it starts to look better and better. Yeah, so much for being able to do a short video. I don't think this is going to happen. I think, I just don't know. It's crazy how much I second guess myself all the time. You know, I see so many of the short videos, you know, and it seems like the videos that run like 45 minutes or less get so many views and those channels have so many subscribers. And I just can't seem to do that. It's frustrating for me, although I know some of you say you like the longer format videos, which is really nice. I always feel like it's boring, but it is what it is. Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of this one actually in the photo, if I can do that, it's actually kind of shaded or shadowed in here. Honestly, it always feels so weird for me when I do these on YouTube to call them a tutorial, because I'm still learning myself, so I don't feel like I can actually say this is a tutorial as much as you watching me draw, and definitely make mistakes along the way. These Micron pens, I mentioned it earlier in the video that you could buy them in a pack, an assorted pack, but you can also get them in packs, in full packs. I think packs of 10 or 12 where you get nothing but 003s, nothing but 005s, or nothing but 01s. I'm sure there's others as well. But for me, buying them that way works a lot better because I don't really use the really thicker ones. Okay, don't cover up the little statement thingies. And I told myself that I would take pictures along the way of this process so I could post them on Instagram, and I totally forgot. Haven't taken a single picture. Maybe have to take some screenshots of the video or something. I don't know. Okay, so I'm wondering if I should do a little combination of some stippling and some lines. A lot of what I choose to use, whether it's stippling or hatching or scribbling, crosshatch, it depends on the texture of whatever it is that I'm drawing. I think this one needs a combination of both dots and lines. I get lost in these drawings when I do this. When I'm in my room and I'm working, I usually have a book on, an audiobook, or have music playing. And I just love doing it because I don't think about anything else. There's nothing going on in my brain besides what I'm doing. So it's really good for my headspace because I can't think about anything, anything else but this. And I just get lost, and I can escape for a little while. I know there's some people that say, you know, they don't have the patience, which it's totally acceptable. I love the detail. I love the just getting in there and just focusing on what I'm doing and getting lost in it. I'm hoping that this is gonna turn out better than it feels right now. I think it will. I think it will. I'm just judging too early, and I'm being self-conscious because I'm on film. Okay, so I'm gonna do some really light marks here. We want to kind of curve those lines around so that it gives the illusion that that petal is curved as well. And I'm going to go ahead and just do that here too. I do move my paper around a lot so that I can get the marks going in the easiest direction, whether it's, usually it's pulling towards me. That works pretty well. Way. Pulling away works well too. I like them both. Okay, be careful to not cover up those thingies. Sure wish I knew the names of those. I think it's stamen, but I could totally be wrong. All right, we're gonna go. All right, I think I'm going to pull out a little bit higher, either the 1 or the 5. Let's try the 1. Definitely a bigger, darker, and thicker line with the thicker tip. some more. Don't push hard. Avoid the desire to push harder to get a darker line. If you need a darker line, switch to a thicker tip, because if you push too hard on these really delicate tips, they will wear down before you know, like really fast, and then you'll be buying new pens again. So switch to a thicker tip, or just do a lot more really light lines. Okay, this one. Oh, see, I'm just noticing now. Boy, am I a dummy. Okay, so this right here is actually the petal flipped up. So there we go. And I like it better already now because it makes more sense to me. Okay, so we've got, I want to do some. And the only reason I just noticed that is because I blew up my reference photo. And when it was blown up, it was like, oh, well, now I can see that that's... Okay, I need to slow down for a minute and... just... to the 5. This, I made a mistake in that I didn't bring this fold all the way up to the very top of the petal. So now I've got this area that's supposed to be really dark right next to this area that is now really dark and shouldn't have been. So I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to tackle that. Because I don't want this to be all fooey. I don't want that to be all dark. Crap. I don't know what to do. Maybe we just, I don't know. I'm just gonna go for it and see what happens. Just try and maybe not go so dark right there. Keep the darkness. Maybe, I don't know, or I don't know. Okay, let's. think it's going to be okay the way it is. So in the original, this petal has a fold in it right here. I'm not sure if I want to do that or not. Let's start with just I hate to just put a straight up and down line there. That just doesn't feel right. I did not do the shape of this petal correctly because I got thrown by the, but that's okay. We'll make it work as it is, and no one will know. I mean, nobody's going to be looking at your reference photo while they're looking at the piece of art. So nobody's going to look at my piece and go, oh, you did that completely wrong from the reference photo. And nobody will ever do that on your piece either. They're going to look at the finished piece. So don't get upset or thrown too much if a piece has to change because of a mistake. Just go with it. Just go with it. Nobody's gonna know. And once I get it all done, I'm not gonna notice it either. Okay, like there's this line here that doesn't belong here. But by the time I finish doing what I'm gonna do, hopefully you won't even see it. The hardest part for me, as with the way that it was when I was, when I worked with colored pencils, the hardest part for me has always been making sure that I preserve enough white, that I don't go crazy with my pens or pencils or whatever. And really preserve that white. That's my struggle that I have to get better at. Okay, let me make sure that I'm preserving my whites. So this is actually closer to the end of this petal. It kind of, the center is kind of over here. Remember with pen, and probably with a lot of things, your thickest part of your line is going to be where you start. And your thinnest part of the line is going to be where you end, because your pen is lifting off of the paper. So that's how I make sure that I blend things, as I come from both sides, so that the thinnest part is in the center of the leaf. Okay, now I had somewhere in here I had a fold that I lost somehow. I don't think I can make it I don't think I can get it to come back without making it look funny. So we'll just do that, I guess. Maybe we can, if we give it a little wiggle. Yeah, I really need to bring in a lot more darks. I think I'm going to divide this tutorial into two. I think we're going to do the flower in one. There, I called it a tutorial. I wasn't supposed to. We're going to do the flower in one and the leaves in another. Because otherwise this is going to be way too long. Okay, let's move on to another petal. Let's go here, here. Okay, so I kind of like that. I'm going to leave that for now and see. I also like this little stippling that's going on this petal. So I might come in and add some more of that into some more of the petals. Okay, let's do, I think we're going to switch to the 3. this one has got an area kind of right in there that's the darkest. So I'm going to kind of start right there. I'm going to just go in here a little bit darker in the very depths of that petal. All right, I'm going to move on. We're going to come right here. All right, I'm going to do the center before I start adding some more darkness, just because it's throwing me like it. I feel like it's the reason that I'm not liking what I have on here so far. I think it's going to be good once I get it done. I still have so much further to go. And we're really in a long video. Okay. So I switched to my 003. I think I'm going to start with some of these long, the tips. And they kind of go in random directions. So I feel like I ask this of you guys a lot, but I usually only get a couple of people that give me an answer. As far as these drawing videos go, do you want to see the long form all the way through from start to finish, or would you prefer to see, you know, sped up videos where you're not really listening to me talk, but you're just kind of watching the drawing process? I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Because even though what am I trying to say? The YouTube channel is for you guys. So I do care about what your preferences are. But I can't know unless you leave me a comment and you tell me. All right, let's put in some of these. It feels like this part is hard. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get this to look right. I think after I get some of these lines in, I'm gonna have to come in and add more of the little thingies and a lot of dark. I'm so glad you guys know what I'm talking about when I just like ramble on and say, you know, add more thingies. At least I hope you do. Okay, well, it kind of looks a little bit better already, I think. All right, let's move up to the 05. I might not be ready for this yet, but we're gonna try. This is almost the part where I feel like I need to take my glasses off and get really right up close to this. Be careful not to add too much black to start with, because once I add black, there's no more lines. This is going to be it. And I feel like there should be a lot of lines. This may be a case of me coming in and adding pen over the top. Not pen. Well, yeah, pen. I can either add, I mean, in a traditional, true pen and ink, that's probably considered cheating. But since I'm not, well, that's starting to look better. Bringing in some of these. Yeah, that's starting to look better. Okay. Yeah, anyway, what I was saying was, art can be whatever you want it to be. Don't let anybody tell you that you're doing your art the wrong way. If you're going to be, you know, submitting it into a competition, then that's something else, because a lot of the times they have very specific rules for, you know, what you can enter. But if you're just making art for, you know, your own pleasure, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to follow anybody's rules but your own. I hope my head isn't in frame. I've gotten really up close here. So I'm kind of making squiggly marks now to fill in the black. I don't think it necessarily needs to be a hard black. I think just little squiggles are going to do the job. And I'm feeling a lot better about it now. Sorry, I'm really concentrating. But as the further along I go, the better it looks to me. So that's good. I drew this a little bit bigger than I probably should have on the paper. There's not a whole lot of room for our watercolor wash. so much better. Okay. Let's darken up some stuff here. I'm going to darken up this. Now, I need to tell myself, don't get excited and don't go crazy. So I grabbed the 01 instead of the 005, so we're going to get a darker line automatically, so be a little careful. Again, having that pen be kind of as far on its side as I can get it seems to really help me get that nice thin controlled line, as opposed to putting it on the paper and going, oh crap, I made it too dark, which I've definitely done before. Okay, I think we need some more shading in here. Another thing about the finer pens, which I think I'm going to switch to in just a minute. Another thing about the finer pens is that you, what was I going to say? What was I going to say? I don't know. Darn it, I hate it when that happens. It does give you more control. You can just keep building up what you're doing instead of getting too dark of a line all at one time. All right, I'm going to take my reference photo right now. It's on my iPad, and I'm going to convert it to black and white. So basically take all the saturation out of it so that it's just black and white. And that helps me see a little bit better some of the contrast. Actually, I might even up the contrast a little bit. Oh, look at that. Okay. Yeah. So when you have a photo on your device, you can mess with it by upping the contrast, changing it to black and white, increasing the contrast so that you can really see the darks and lights. I think in a pen and ink, those darks and lights are more important than ever, because as I said, it's all you have to rely on to define the shape and the colors of the whatever you're drawing. And if everything is too washed out and too much the same, then you don't get as much punch. I'm going to go ahead and darken this. And then I think I'm going to come this way. Some more. bit more. When you start getting some darks in, you start really seeing where you need more. Because it's like, this looks really good, and then there's areas here where I feel like they are definitely lacking in that depth. Okay, so I'm gonna switch to one of my old weak pens to feather this out. It's really getting down to the nib. So yeah, be aware of your texture of your paper when you're using these fine line pens, because if it's rough paper, they really wear down fast. I'm not sure that I'm going to wind up using this hot press. I don't know. I don't like how rough it is. All right, guys, I think I'm close to the end here for this. In the reference photo, this petal is dark, is probably one of the darkest petals. And in mine, it is one of the lightest petals. So when that happens, I think you should go slowly, because sometimes you just have to take some artistic license and go, you know what, I prefer it to be this way, and that's okay. But if I go slowly, I'll be able to tell better if I want to keep going darker. This one has hardly any on it. Let's do some, I think I said I wanted to add some stippling in some areas. So let's do that. It just adds a little bit of texture and interest so that it's not all the same line. Now, when I was learning how to do all of this stuff, and I watched a lot of YouTube videos. I had some people say that you should always use the same mark all the way through your piece. So if you start with stippling, you should use stippling. I don't know if I misheard what they were saying, But to me, that just sounded so wrong. To me, I felt like, I mean, you don't want to go crazy and just put marks on there for whatever reason, but for me, a piece is so much more interesting if it kind of has a variety of marks. I'm not sure what they call these. I know there's a name for what you're doing when you do this. But again, like I said, I'm just learning too. I'm not I am by no means an expert, so if you're really interested in this kind of art, I would say look up some YouTube videos. In my case, I don't have any channels that really stood out to me as like, oh, I learned so much from this one channel that I could share with you. It's kind of been my own trial and error, but I did learn some from watching some videos, so. I do like the stippling dots in here, though. I tend to use stippling a lot in leaves too, for some reason. And everybody's got their own style, and everybody does it their own way. There's no right way, there's no wrong way. You do you, as they say. All right, guys, I think I'm going to end the video here. I might continue to add some more of these dots. On here. But I think that's good for this time. I'm not sure if I'm going to edit the heck out of this video. I just don't know. Until I see it and I see how long it is, I know that it's much longer than I wanted it to be. I thought I'd be able to get this done fast, but no. So we'll do a part 2, and in part 2 we'll do the leaves. So thank you so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you learned something. And please, please, please leave me a comment or a like. I don't think everybody realizes how important those things are to a channel. They, just like with Instagram, just like with Facebook, YouTube has algorithms, and if videos don't get any kind of engagement, then those videos don't get seen by anybody. So it would mean quite a lot to me if you could give it a like, or even just leave a comment and just say, hey, I was here and I enjoyed the video, or hopefully you don't say, hey, I was here and your video sucked. We don't like those kind of comments. All right, my friends, until I see you next time, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Love to you all. Bye.